Hi, everyone. Welcome to our webinar today. I see we still have some people filtering in, so we have a lot of attendees, so let's give it a moment and we can get started soon. So, okay, everyone. So before we get started today, we would really like to thank you for taking the time to join us at Sense for this very romantic themed webinar that we are going to share with you. We love to answer questions, very, very interactive today. So please feel free to put them in the Q&A. And if we don't get to them during the presentation, we will certainly make sure that we get to everybody's questions in the post. Which brings me to, this will be recorded and will be distributed afterwards. So, if you missed something, don't worry about it. You will have a chance to go back, and you can also have any questions answered afterwards. A very fun part of this also is we are going to be having interactive trivia questions throughout the presentation. Keep everybody on their toes, and that way you can each win, or 5 chances to win, a $25 Amazon gift card. So that being said, it's going to be a really fun hour or so. My name is Christina Krenner, and I'm a product marketing manager here at Sense. And welcome to How to Not Lose a Candidate in 10 Days. Given that it is Valentine's week, we thought the love-hate nature of our industry would be a very, very important theme that we could address here. So we are really excited. And with that being said, I'd love to introduce Alex Rosen, head of product.
Everybody, thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Alex. I'm one of the co-founders of Sense and run our product team, and really looking forward to showing you what we're doing today. Thanks again. And let me introduce and pass it over to my colleague, Justine.
Hi, everyone. I'm Justine. I'm the product manager for messaging. Pankaj or Mithun?
Yeah, hello everyone. My name is Mithun Ganalan. I'm a director of product here at Sense, and I am responsible for our chatbot, Discover, and Meetings product. Over to you, Pankaj.
Yeah, thank you, Mithun. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for making the time to spend this hour with us today. My name is Pankaj. I'm one of the founders of Sense, responsible for sales and revenue. We've planned a really fun hour for you, but we also want to keep this super interactive. So please ask us any number of questions that you might have throughout this webinar. Christina is going to do an amazing job at tracking all of those questions. And while we'll take some of them at the end, we'll also take some of them during the webinar. Now, I see a lot of familiar people who are joining the webinar, but for those of you who are not familiar with Sense, I will give you a quick 30-second primer on what we do. Sense started a little over 6 years ago with a singular vision of building the first talent engagement platform that was designed specifically for the staffing industry. We've stayed really, really true to that mission. We now have over 600 customers, every single one of which is a staffing company. We also spent a lot of time right up front building the right plumbing, the right integrations to make sure that we put the ATS first. And because of that, you can see this proof in the pudding. We today work with 6 of the top 10 staffing companies in the US. These are obviously multi-billion-dollar firms that you've all heard of, but we also work with 1/3 of the largest staffing companies in the US, largest being firms that have over $100 million in revenue as recorded by SIA. We're very proud of our SOC 2 Type 2 certification that we recently got about 6 months ago. We take our customers' privacy and data very seriously. So this isn't an easy certification to get, but we wanted to make sure that we had that for our customers. Along this journey, we've raised about $90 million in capital from some blue chip investors that you can see listed here on the slide. Now, the Sense platform itself hinges on 3 different pillars: growth, retention, and automation. That's all we talk about. That's all we think about. Growth is how do we enable top of the funnel for you, add more candidates, screen them quickly, reactivate your database, but do anything that needs to be done to make more placements and impact your top line. Retention talks about bottom line. How do we actually help you make more money from the people you have already? Increase their loyalty, increase their retention, decrease your attrition, increase redeployment, increase NPS scores, increase time on assignment. Anything we can do to make sure that these people stay with you longer, so your cost per hire keeps going down. And then automation is all about taking busy work out of your recruiters, making them more efficient. Mithun's going to talk about how the chatbot product, for example, can take away 30 to 50% of a recruiter's busy time today by automatically screening and scheduling people. Justine's going to talk about how you can send messages to thousands of people and then do context switching based on what an individual reply is, hence making your recruiters more productive. And Alex is going to talk about some really fun stuff we're doing around adding AI into journeys and what the next iteration or version of Sense's intelligent journeys would look like. Now, today, we're going to be playing what we think are our greatest hits for you guys. This is the entire playlist that we will go through today. It may sound like a broken record at this point, but as you guys all know, the pandemic has fundamentally changed the global workforce, and the war for talent is now as fierce as it ever was. Every company we talk to is talking about unfilled positions, not enough candidates. And at the same time, the candidate expectations are rising. They expect a consumer-like behavior from a staffing company. They expect the same treatment from a staffing firm as they expect from an Amazon.com. Hey, remember my preferences. If I ask you to text me, text me. If I ask you to email me, email me. Reach out to me during the hours I tell you to. So a lot of companies today are struggling to meet candidate expectations, and it's probably more important than ever now to create a delightful candidate experience. So that's what we're here to do today as a belated Valentine's Day theme. As you guys can see, we'll be talking about how to not lose candidates throughout this entire webinar. So what is this playlist about? The first one is We're Not Compatible. It talks about how we'll touch on problems that relate to job matching. How can you actually figure out to match candidates with jobs at scale very, very quickly? The black holes in your ATS, why do you reach out to candidates and get ghosted? How can you engage 100% of your candidates and avoid having them slip through the cracks? It's complicated. This is the part that talks about the application process. There is various stats on how 40, 60, sometimes 90% of the people don't complete the application process once they start that on your website. So we'll talk about how you can improve that. They're just not into you. I mean, why do people pick other companies over you, and what can you do to change that? And finally, don't call me maybe. This whole idea about, can you reach candidates with more personalization, so you don't look like a cold call, but you look like you're reaching out to them with a purpose, and you know exactly what this candidate wants, and you have their best interests in mind. And of course, Christina is going to do a bunch of fun trivia and prizes along the way, and I can't wait for that. But let's jump right into it. I mean, let's get started with talking about we're not compatible. How do you match candidates to jobs? It's become a new trendy piece of technology, job matching. But we're also seeing that sometimes it doesn't quite add up to what you expect out of it. So I'm going to ask Alex to talk about, what some of the current solutions offer, what Sense can do, what are some of the pitfalls, and what are the right best practices to match candidates to the jobs to the right job at scale.
Thanks, Pankaj. So we think job matching on what we're calling the Sense Discover per product is a really interesting, exciting area, and that we're doing some new things here with a job matching too. So fundamentally, I think that what we found by kind of talking to our customers and beginning to roll this product out to them is that really job matching works best when it's deeply part of your systems, and you want it to be automated and just running in the background all day, all night on your team's behalf. So this is what, how we think that you can reach the most candidates with the right targeted jobs to them. And so, this kind of part of Sense is, part of our tools. It's part of Sense Engage. It's live in our chatbot and using many signals to kind of match, the right jobs to candidates. The other thing that we found that when we built this is, that, many candidates these days are more than their resume. So, we need to look at those candidates too that might not, have a resume or might not have their resume on their phone. And, that's where our, bot that does the pre-screening will show you more of, we can take more of these signals in, and then with the ultimate goal of matching them to a job. So for anyone on this call, who wants to see more, who wants to get this turned on, for your current Sense customers, we've put a mail link here below at discover@sensehq.com, and we would love to get you going. And then just on the next slide here, there are so many places that we should be using, this kind of matching technology. One on the past slide that you saw was around redeployment. That is an awesome time, to be engaging candidates with the right next job for them before their current placement is done. And then also, kind of continually reaching out to, what's called the silver medalist candidate. So, often when someone applies to a job, they might not be the perfect fit. They might not have, picked the right job. They might not be that top candidate, but we want to get them back into that funnel as fast as possible and get them matched to the right job.
Okay, everyone. We have our first trivia question of the day. Please answer in the chat. According to the National Retail Federation, how much did Americans spend on Valentine's Day in 2021? 13 billion, 21 billion, or a whopping 35 billion? Ooh.
Yeah, this thing is pretty crazy. When I first heard this question, just so everybody knows, we'll track your chat responses and we'll declare the winners tomorrow. So, fastest finger first. And Alex, thank you so much for, walking us through the Sense Discover product and how job matching can be used specifically to engage your silver medalists and for redeployment. Obviously a super powerful use case. I talk to customers all day long, obviously, and I hear that companies oftentimes have a 3%, 4%, 10% redeployment rate. And you could very easily double these redeployment rates if you were actually, just making this an automated process. Make it easy for both your recruiters and your candidates. Somebody's coming out of assignment, they get an automatic notification. Hey, you're coming out. No worries. We've got 4 more jobs for you. What do you feel about these jobs? Send the same notification to recruiter. Hey, we've reached out to Jack over here. He already has these jobs. You guys can connect. But these are some of the positions that you can submit that person for. But the other big problem in our industry today is this idea about getting ghosted. Nobody likes being ghosted, but job seekers are reporting that sometimes 75% of the companies they will not hear back from after they've submitted an application. It's the number one source of frustration with candidates, even though you guys know that today we're trying to, everybody's trying to find candidates. So it's probably incredibly difficult to do this without the right technology in place. So I'm excited to have you here, Justine. Can you talk to us a little bit about some of the things you guys are doing on the messaging team to make sure that recruiters can reach candidates better and faster?
Yeah, so with Sense messaging, recruiters are often able to more than halve their response times. We have a Chrome extension that can pop open on any browser window for easy access, as well as an iOS and Android app for when you're on the go doing site visits and not at your computer. If you go to the next slide. next slide. Yeah. With sense messaging, our core thesis is that relationships are continuous. Our focus is helping recruiters build cohesive narratives with their candidates that transition seamlessly across multiple channels and between powerful custom automation and personal touch points. Referencing emails is a great way to build trust with candidates and results in much higher SMS response rates. For example, starting a conversation with, "Hey, Brad, just sent you an email with more information about this job. Did you get it?" Sense messaging helps you achieve this sort of holistic approach with our conversation context feature, which displays any other touch points that a candidate has received through Sense so that you can reference them in conversation. This allows recruiters to live in one single product instead of having to context switch between several different interfaces, which in turn creates a more cohesive candidate experience while reducing response times and directly impacting your time to hire. And I'm going to hand it off to Alex now to speak more to creating intelligent workflows.
Thanks, Justine. And, on that theme of ghosting and that, perfect candidate journey that makes sure that you don't kind of miss anyone and, forget to follow up, we've found that, the needs for a great, candidate experience are, only going up and are getting more competitive. And as such, we are, releasing new versions and new redesigns of our core tools at Sense to kind of keep up. So we find that, many of our customers and you are, have very complicated, candidate journeys now, and we want you to be able to really build these, build it in Sense and to really reflect what candidates are doing and they need today. So you'll see us begin to roll out soon version 2 of both Sense journeys and our Sense audience targeting. So you can build things, with ideas like more logic, and you can target certain cohorts of candidates, based on what they've done in the past. Are they a silver medalist candidate? Are they a promoter of your company? Have they responded to a certain campaign in a certain way? We want to give you that, really incisive targeting, so you're able to really make sure that you're not ghosting any candidate, and then also making sure that they get the right message to get a job with your firm.
Yeah, I mean, super important concepts, both of these. Alex and Justine, thanks for sharing. I mean, obviously, context is everything, right? When you are reaching out to candidates, when you're doing your marketing campaigns, you basically want to do that based on what their last actions were. If somebody was interested in a particular job, or if somebody has talked to you in the last 6 months, last 3 months, you want to be able to build your audiences based on some of those actions and then go from there. I'm kind of excited to talk more about the chatbot, but before we do that, I know Christina has more trivia for us.
Yes, indeed. Okay, so the answer to that hefty question of how much did Americans spend in 2021 was 21 billion. So congratulations to whoever the winner is. So the next question in our rom-com theme, who does Meryl Streep end up with at the end of It's Complicated? Now, I will accept the name of the actor or the name of the character, which actually should technically get you bonus points, but.
Yeah, well, talking about It's Complicated, let's talk about application processes. I mean, this is a question for all of you to think about. How many of you have actually gone to your own job site and applied, or gone through an entire experience of what an applicant goes through? How many minutes does it take to do that? I mean, how long does it take to do that? Do you feel like dropping off in the middle of that process? We've seen some companies where, they have 20 different questions and 6 different steps before you can actually press done on your application process. And every single question that you ask, every single step that you add on is an opportunity for a candidate to drop off. It's an opportunity that's adding more friction into your recruiting process. So you've got to become strategic about maximizing, capturing candidates, or at the very least capturing their contact information so you can get back to them even if they did decide to drop off. And that's why I'm excited to welcome Mithun to the webinar, Mithun and his team, they've created conversational AI solutions that feel very much, natural language based, but at the same time, they're super quick, they're super slick, and they keep the candidate engaged and interested and make sure that you have all the information almost immediately. Mithun, can you talk to us about, what are you doing to help recruiters source candidates better?
Thanks, Pankaj. So the first thing, when we talk about sourcing chatbots, we think about inbound chatbots that are primarily on customers' website, which is a very obvious place to be. But our team has focused on additional channels to engage candidates, right? The word of the day is to meet the candidates where they are. Like if I'm a candidate, I'm more, I'm more interested in talking to people via SMS. We want to engage those candidates via SMS. Like if I'm a candidate that want to get sent an email with a link to a chatbot that I can talk to at my own pace, we want to engage those candidates in those ways. So what we have done is created a sourcing chatbot that can be available to candidates in the channel of their preference. So the idea being you can build a single chatbot that could be the front face of your sourcing efforts and have it be available on your website, have that be available via text, have that be available via like a link, a QR code that you can embed on your marketing collateral, so that anyone that you engage can choose the medium they wish to communicate with you, and they're all coming to you regardless of like how it's engaged, so that you don't actually have to staff people for every one of those efforts. And the other thing we've done is nicely integrated Discover into the product, and that Alex was talking about Discover. So we want to use this sourcing chatbot to engage with candidates at a slightly deeper level than just what we ask for. Like in your regular search form on a website, you're searching for title and then location. But instead, you could go deeper. You could ask them multiple questions and then show matches that are a little bit deeper, so that it is not at the surface level. You can go a little bit deeper and use this technology. And the important thing is, other thing is to also speed up the process as much as possible, right? So the chatbot can do this job 24/7, and it can be available in all these channels. And how fast can we get a candidate from sourcing to setting up an interview with the recruiter is critical, right? So once you have somebody drop off in the funnel, it's very hard to get that person back on. So what we have done is created this integrated approach where you start by sourcing, show them matches. If they indicate an interest in a job, you can ask a handful of questions to see if those answers mean you want to set up time with the recruiter, and then immediately show scheduling to get that person scheduled to talk to a recruiter. Right, so that is kind of key, is to start and end and not have this process be broken up into multiple different days. Instead, try and do this within minutes.
Yeah, I love that, Mithun. I mean, just for the interest of our viewers, I'll tell you that we have customers today who are actually challenging us to go from hello to hire in 5 minutes. I mean, somebody comes to your website, they talk to a natural language-based chatbot, they answer some screening questions. The chatbot actually says, wait a minute, you're actually a good fit for 3 or 4 of these jobs. Here you go. So you've automatically been matched to those jobs. The job seeker goes, yeah, I like job number 2. And if, the job number 2 is, I don't know, if it's a picker packer job and you've already answered questions like, I can stand on my feet for 8 hours a day, I can lift 50 pounds, I've never gotten a DUI, I'll get a COVID screening every week. Maybe the process is to say, you're hired, you have the job. You can start Monday morning, just show us your IDs and do a verification at 8 a.m. and 9 a.m. you can start. So imagine the impact where you can reach out to tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, hundreds, depending on how many positions you're filling, of candidates at the same time. And people who are interested talk to you via this natural language chatbot, and within 5 minutes, they can have a job. I mean, talk about a consumer-like experience, but at the same time, you went through every single requirement, every single sourcing screening question, you found the exact job for them, they're happy with the pay rate. So normally things that you would spend hours or days doing can actually be done within seconds or minutes. So thanks for sharing that, Mithun. Christina, what was the answer to the last question?
It was Steve Martin or Adam Schaefer in the movie, the dashing, recently divorced architect with the lovable comedic timing. So we now have one of my favorite movies personally. Trivia: what city does He's Just Not That Into You take place? This movie was a little cringy, but cute nonetheless. All right, submit your answers so you can buy soap and toilet paper conveniently.
All right, well, talking about somebody just not being into you, let's talk about why that happens, why that happens with candidates. I mean, what's the secret of getting top talent over your competition? How can you reduce time that recruiters spend in doing tedious tasks, but actually allow them to have more time to nurture candidates? So a lot of the things we talk about are how do you personalize your outreach at scale? How do you leverage your NPS scores to boost referrals, to boost your social media scores, so on and so forth? So while, as most of you know, Sense, Engage, and the journeys are the foundation that we've built the company on, we also have a bunch of new items on the roadmap that will help you reduce recruiter fatigue. And all of these are powered by AI. So I'll let both Justine and Mithun talk about that, but maybe starting with you, Justine.
Cool. Yeah, so our templates feature, accessible on both web and mobile, makes it super easy to reply to candidates with additional information about a particular job or send a check-in survey in just a few taps. Scheduling meetings notoriously also takes a lot of tedious back and forth, and we've drastically simplified this for our users with our meetings feature, where candidates can easily see a recruiter's availability and schedule time, cutting out all the superfluous texting that it used to take to get schedules coordinated. I'm going to hand it over to Mithun to talk about FAQ bots.
Okay.
Yeah, the idea behind the FAQs is to provide contextual answers to candidates when they're going through the process with you, right? If they have to stop, and we talked about this earlier, if somebody stops and they disconnect from the process even for a little bit, it's a little bit harder to get them back, right? You want to create that continuity, and FAQs bots can be a great source to do that, right? So it could be part of your available suite of technology. A candidate that is applying for a position could ask, how much does this job pay? And we could pick up the pay rate from your ATS and answer that question in a tone that you would want to use with your candidates, right? It could be questions like, hey, what do I wear for the interview? Or, what is your PTO policy? Or, you have a full range of questions that'll be pre-built for you that you can pick and choose and see which ones one you want to answer. But also you can add in additional questions always to answer specific questions that are related to your company. So what this could provide is reduce the effort that is required on your part to answer candidate questions, like set a time to get somebody on the phone. But largely this could help you move faster with your candidates and improve your time to fill, but also provide a much better candidate experience at the end, that they know that when somebody applies for a job with you, you're going to respond and answer back, continue with those candidates.
Yeah. I mean, from my perspective, I'll tell you that this is probably one of the top 3 requested features within Sense. So I'm glad it's coming out soon, because oftentimes people, people decide whether they're going to stay with your company long term or not based on their first impression, based on onboarding. And this is exactly when onboarding comes into play, right? I mean, I'm starting a job. I have all these questions that will probably take you a second to answer. Hey, where do I find this? How do I get my key card? What's your PTO policy? Can I reimburse parking? And this is all stuff that you can probably answer in a second. But sometimes finding the right person and the right resource can take forever. But the FAQ bot can just simply automate all of these questions for you. You talk to this bot in natural language, and everything that you're curious about would simply be answered by the bot.
Yeah, I'm really excited about this too, because it really plays into a theme also that you'll see in our meetings, product also that's coming up is that, you want to be able to engage with candidates when they want to, right? So we're seeing, more and more just, candidates are applying to jobs on their phone, like in between things, or they might come to your site at 10 at night, after they've done their, job. And if there isn't anyone there who can talk to them, they're just going to bounce off. But if they're able to get that one key thing answered and get on the calendar of the right person, then you've really captured them and you're able to talk to them tomorrow rather than lose them to a competitor.
Yeah, great point, Alex. Makes sense. All right, more trivia.
Okay, so the answer to that last question, he's just not that into you, took place in Baltimore, Maryland. Now, crabbing is a great first date because you get a lot of humility out of the way, and they're famous for that there. And or Camden Yards. I went to school in DC, one of my favorite places to visit. It was going to an Orioles game. So with that, hope maybe you got it right, maybe you didn't. But what year did Carly Rae Jepsen release "Call Me Maybe"? That catchy tune that stayed in our heads for at least an entire summer.
I am very impressed here with the number of people answering confidently, because I had no idea on this one.
Well,
I
talking
remember was Obama saying, "Call me maybe." That's got to be in his presidency.
Well, talking about "Call Me Maybe," let's talk about "Don't Call Me Maybe." As you know, we're kind of living through an era where we have information overload. It's difficult to reach people with all the distractions they have, all the commitments, this, always switched on mentality. So, when you put yourself in the candidate's shoes, you're going to realize that just personalized engagement is not enough. In fact, we feel like that is today table stakes. Every single person expects that. Now what's important is, and I talk about this all the time, is to provide them this consumer-like experience. Just absolutely make sure that you knew every single preference for this particular candidate. So I know the texting space itself now has brand new regulations. So Justine, maybe you can walk us through how we're leveraging technologies to make sure that recruiters can improve their messages, so they're one more personalized, but they're also not going against any of these new regulations.
Yeah, so with 10DLC, the margin of error when it comes to staying compliant is much smaller. Carriers now have your business identity and registration information and will be able to enforce their policy in ways that they previously could not prior to the 10DLC rollout. So to help users adapt to these changes, we're introducing two new features. The first is content warning banners. We will automatically detect whether your message violates any best practices or guidelines and suggest how you can edit your message. Second, we will introduce content scoring feature. This feature uses AI to compare your message to historical delivery error data and tell you how similar your message is to other messages that have triggered carrier filtering. This will give you a good sense of whether your content is risky to send and provide correct recommendations on how to reduce that risk. These features will also help keep your numbers and businesses safe from carrier filtering, carrier bans, and other punitive fines. And now back to Alex to talk about audience manager.
Alex, can you talk to us about audience manager?
Next slide, sorry.
So we covered them before it got moved around.
Got it. Okay. Yeah, so if you are a current user of Sense messaging, you've probably heard us talk a lot about 10DLC. You've probably heard a lot about making sure that you're CAN spam compliant, you're TCPA compliant, you're sending messages that don't get carrier filtered. We're now building this right within the product. So this idea of letting your recruiters know, nearly everybody has been guilty of sending an entire job description that is 4 pages long on a text message. People have been guilty of sending messages that nobody's going to read because they're not just little crisp text messages, but they have like 20 lines in them. So this idea that we will absolutely be able to use AI to tell you instantly whether this message is likely to get delivered or likely to get carrier filtered is going to be a big deal. So so while we're talking about this, one of the things that I wanted to call on Alex was, Alex, I alluded to this a couple of times before. We have this brand new, super powerful product, which is job matching. We have the chatbot, which, is conversational recruiting. How do we marry these two products? I mean, can job matching and chatbot just work together?
Absolutely, and good question to who put that in. Yeah, I mean, that's really what we were getting at, is that to create that good, candidate experience, these need to work together, and particularly with job matching and the chatbot together is really solving that problem of, candidates who might not have a resume or who might not have have a complete resume, right? Which we know can sometimes lead to bias. They'll say something on the resume or they'll leave something out. So to get, a truly good match, you want to rely on more by actually running them through more questions and really trying to kind of pinpoint them.
Got it. Yeah, I mean, I'm super excited about the fact that, you can literally come to, you're a brand new candidate, you can just come to a company's website, get intercepted by a chatbot, and 3 minutes later could actually have either a job or a meeting scheduled with a recruiter where you know that you're going to get a job. So yeah, super helpful. All right, Christina, you have a last trivia question for us?
Yes. So the answer to that was 2012. And can't believe that is 10 years ago now. So final, yummy. Which chocolatier created the first ever heart-shaped box of chocolates for Valentine's Day? I am so excited to see who you guys pick, because this was a little tough. I would give a bonus for what year it was, but I will tell you the year. The year is 1868. So if you're very familiar with famous confectioners, maybe I gave it away. I don't know.
Are we looking for the chocolate company or the name of the chocolatier? What are we?
Well, it is the name of the chocolatier, but there's naturally a very famous, delicious company came out of their name.
With that. Okay, cool. Awesome. And so those are the 5 things we mainly wanted to talk about today from a roadmap standpoint. But one sort of bonus thing that I wanted to talk to everything about was, how do you easily set up dates, while we are still on our Valentine's Day theme? We hear this from a lot from our customers, that the number one problem today they face is scheduling, rescheduling interviews, getting, multiple people's availability sorted out, which candidate should be talking to which recruiter. So just the time spent by recruiters / sourcers / coordinators to find a time that works for everybody itself can be a drag. So we wanted to talk to you guys about how you can actually easily set up meetings within Sense. And Mithun, if you can walk us through that, that'll be awesome.
Yeah, I'll be glad to. Scheduling in its phase is very straightforward problem, right? It looks very simple. It's got a lot of benefits, so it's a no-brainer for organizations to, use a scheduling solution. But using a solution that is made for staffing, is designed to work with staffing needs, is key, right? So let's take an example where you have 10 recruiters that are hiring for X number of warehouse positions, and they're all interviewing candidates, right? You could use a single scheduler to talk to these candidates, find times that work for these candidates, and put it on recruiters' calendars in a round-robin way, right? So for example, if Alex, Justine, and myself are interviewing for a product manager position, right? We want to basically make candidates more times available, or we could also choose to load balance the interviews across all 3 of us and make sure that we get equal allocation. So if we all talk to 10 candidates each, we want to make sure that there are 10 interviews, right? On the candidate side, what this translates into is that you're not talking to a person trying to find a time that works for that person. A candidate could be given one of the widgets like you see in the screen, either during the chatbot conversation, or it could be emailed to them after they their application status has gone to a certain part, and then have them book time with one of your recruiters without having to just like get on the phone. Like a typical scheduling takes about 3 different phone calls if you're trying to do over the phone, or you could just have like a bunch of emails going back and forth trying to find availability, right? You can now eliminate all of that, and it is a very brainer, straightforward solution. But there's a lot of complexity associated with it, and all of the complexity should be hidden away from your recruiters and the candidates, and that's what we've done, right? So in its face, it looks very straightforward. Candidate clicks on a link or says this is a time that works for them. We check for availability to see who's available at that time, like send invites to both parties, right? And that is one part of it, right? But obviously, when you have scheduling, there is also rescheduling, cancellations, like cancellation reasons, right? You want to automate all of that so that your people are focused on talking to these candidates instead of trying to figure out what time works for everybody, right? That is not a huge value add to anyone, right? So that is what scheduling can do. But keep in mind, especially now, it is very hard for people to keep track of all of their commitments. Like everybody's at home, everybody's got childcare issues. They've got 100 other things that are vying for their attention. So you want to nudge both your candidates and your recruiters to show up to the event, right? You want to send them reminders a day before the event. You want to send them reminders an hour or the start of the day. You want to give them directions and say, here's where you show up to this event, an interview, so that you gently nudge parties to get to that event so that you can reduce a no-show rate, right? That is critical, right? You want a solution that gives you all of that. And at the end of the event, you want to send a thank you note, and you want to follow up and get some feedback on the event, right? You can ask, did this person show up? So you can track no-show rates and see what's, who didn't show up, what is the reason, and and plan for rescheduling. So all of those things combined into a single easy to use scheduling event is very key. And it is kind of like an instant ROI boost. It's just the amount of time you would save by just having one simple piece of technology is huge.
Yeah. Mithun, we got a question while you were talking about this, saying, how is this different from the meeting scheduler app? I'm not sure what meeting scheduler app this person is referring to, so we'd love some clarification on that. But if you think about it, this is very much a full-on scheduler that you would see with, I don't know, something like a Calendly or so on and so forth, except that it is 100% integrated with Sense, it's integrated with Engage, and it is completely built in-house by us. It also integrates with our chatbot, so you can actually have functionality to say, if somebody passes through the pre-screening questions, then and only then give them the ability to schedule with somebody.
Yeah, very good. Okay, finish it up.
Keep going.
Yeah, I saw the explanation, the clarification. Imagine using a third-party solution and also using a solution like Census that is integrated to your ATS. Let's say you're scheduling a interview for a job order that you have open, and we at Sense will be able to pick up the recruiter assigned to that job, right, from the order. And you can use that as a variable to Pankaj's point, because we are so staffing focused and we are integrated to your data, we can pick that data up and say, okay, this is the position, and this is the recruiter that's interviewing for this position, and set up interview with that person. And you can do this at scale instead of having to create a meeting template for every single job that you have open, right? You can set once and forget it. And that's kind of the simplicity and automation that we bring to the table compared to what you see outside.
Yeah, awesome. And one of the biggest use cases for me, like I was mentioning before, is just after hours, right? Over the last 2 years, we've seen, especially in the healthcare industry, they're not working 9 to 5. Oftentimes, they're only getting a break at midnight. And if you're getting a break at midnight, how are you going to set up something for a time that works for you? So when you talk to a chatbot, have a scheduler, you can actually eliminate the need for waiting for a recruiter's working hours, but set up something that works for you on your end. Sorry, another question we got here is, if we do not use the chatbot or select the chatbot at this time, can this calendaring/scheduling capability still be available to us? Mithun?
Yeah, we can certainly talk about it. We should have you reach out to our sales team and our product teams, and we can talk about it. We haven't done a lot of those, but we should, again, it is a very much a customer centric feature. We could have built it just as part of a product, but we chose to build it as also a standalone product, so you could have it. And the idea behind building it as a standalone product was to enable our customers to get the best value out of it. So certainly.
Awesome. Thank you. And since we're getting more questions, I'll just flip over to the next slide to make sure that all of you have our email addresses, so you can reach out to us anytime you want if you have more questions. But Alex, Justine, we got another question: that is carrier filtering becoming a big problem now? I mean, which obviously we talk about a lot, but we'd love to get some of your thoughts on it.
Yeah, I mean, I'll kick it off and then maybe pass it over to Justine, who is the filtering expert at Sense and maybe of the country possibly. But we are seeing filtering become bigger and bigger. I mean, as some sort of bad actors begin to use texting channels, sort of to send out volume. We're seeing carriers want to catch up there. The good news is that this is something that we focus on with our customers a lot at Sense, and we really work with them. We have these predictive models. We work on sort of content review, and we find that we're very successful in preventing filtering.
Yeah, and I think with carrier filtering in particular, broadcast feature is really the feature that is most dangerous. And so a lot of our upcoming features are focused around more giving users more control over their templates, because sending a broadcast is really more of a science than an art. So when you can give your users a set of templates that are adhering to SMS best practices and compliant, you really reduce your risk of running afoul of those carrier filters.
Totally makes sense. Hey, Mithun, another question for you, which is one of my all-time favorite questions, but somebody asked, do candidates really like interacting with a chat bot, versus obviously human touch?
Yeah, that is a question that gets asked a lot, especially customers who haven't, who have a view of the chatbot in that is very singular. When we launched this product, we were trying to get a pulse for what candidates feel about this product, right? Now we want to be very upfront and let the candidate know that this is a virtual assistant, right? And that it's a bot and not a person, because transparency. But what we have noticed is consistently when candidates rate their conversations at the end of their conversations, like most bots scored, about a 4 or a 5, right? Which is great. That was a lot more than what we were expecting to see. So one thing we have seen is that, the conversation ratings have been higher, candidate satisfaction has been higher. Even though candidates know that they're talking to a bot, they still like the fact that they either submitted an application and heard back from the company, and that they are making progress and moving forward in their hiring process, right? So getting ghosted and not being able to reach out to all the candidates that apply for a job has been the pain point on both sides. Customer want to have, people their recruiters reaching out to at least 50% of their candidates, right? Just as an example. But what the bot can do is reach out to 100% of the candidates, right? So you have candidate satisfaction. And so as a result, what we have seen so far is that candidates almost always prefer to hear back and talk to a bot. And that's been a huge lift for candidate satisfaction.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing I would add is we are probably having millions and millions of conversations over our chatbot now. And just as a rule, at the end of every conversation, we do ask anybody who's interacting with the bot on what their experience was in interacting with the bot. And across all these hundreds of thousands of conversations, that thing is still at a whopping 4.8 on a scale of 5. The fact that people literally can talk to somebody and get a yes or a no, even if it's a no within 30-40 seconds, people actually love that a lot. I've never seen human interaction rated that high. So just something to keep in mind there as well. Okay, here's another question. So I'll throw it out to the group. Is there a feature for candidate tracking to help us remember to reach out to candidates on a regular basis so candidates do not fall through the cracks?
Definitely. Yeah. I mean, I'll take that one. And actually that's a really popular thing that, people do on Sense. And we have, basically what's called a reminder feature where you can set up these journey workflows to actually remind your team, and there might be certain things that you don't want to send right to the candidate, but you want to make sure that, hey, your team gets, a tickler reminder to, call that candidate 60 days after the job is done and just check in.
Awesome. Cool. Hey, Christina, what was the answer to the last question?
It was a Mr. Richard Cadbury.
Oh.
And every time I hear that name, I get very excited for springtime and Easter for caramel and cream eggs ever since I was a child. So
Awesome. Well, I'll thank everybody. Sorry, Christina, go ahead.
Oh no, I just made a joke about how it comes right in time to ruin swimsuit season. Can't get my hands off them. Thank you everyone for your answers. They're very entertaining and fun. I'm very excited to review them when we get the post of this.
Yeah, and I'll thank everybody for taking this time out of your day to spend time with us. Hopefully you got a sense of what are some of the newest things that we are working over at Sense. A lot of what you heard today is already in production. So if you don't see that today, just reach out to your customer success manager or reach out to any of us that you see on this slide here. We are just super excited about building one cohesive engagement platform. So far from the broken point solution world that the staffing industry dealt with for a number of years. So this whole idea of having a system of record, whatever your radius is, and a system of engagement like Sense, where both of these systems bidirectionally talk to each other, to me is the holy grail of how we can provide candidate this personalized, consumer-like, instant sort of engagement and experience that they're all looking for. Thank you for your questions. Thank you for your time. Like Christina said in the beginning, we will distribute the recording of this later on, and we'll be happy to take questions from anybody. So feel free to reach out, if you have more questions. With that, we'll give you a few minutes back, and thank you so much, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.